the effectiveness of the work from home regime hasn't really been as promised. I think AI can meaningfully improve what's taken place since the mass rollout of electronic medical records. That's pretty exciting as you think about it. I think that will have a much greater impact than telehealth, where a lot of people were fearful that telehealth would have a meaningful impact on healthcare in the US.
This is Maestro Minute, the show that discusses all things real estate, sharing interviews with the most successful people in the industry. Hear from their perspective and what they are doing to achieve success. Get exclusive tips on how you can also succeed in real estate. Maestro Minute is brought to you by Maestro Development. Here's your host, Nareg-Mouradian.
So with healthcare growing, the demand still being strong, where do you see like the market going in the healthcare industry? Like, we talked a little bit about AI, but like, where do you see the market going?
There's the overhang of like the older building stock within the healthcare real estate sector, right? And then we also have what a lot of people believe to be a glut of office space that it has yet to really figure itself out as far as what the utilization is really going to be. Look, I'm not going to speak for every employer. I think a large number of employers would sincerely prefer to have the company back. They are either anecdotally or even statistically showing that the effectiveness of the work from home regime hasn't really been as promised. And so I think, look, will all of the office space that we built be used again, maybe in time? But I think for now, there's going to be a lot of conversations about what else it can be. And, look, I do think some of it could serve as medical space. It's just a question of, is it well located? Does it have the parking? Cater to modern medicine? And what I mean by that is, does it have the mechanical, electrical, plumbing capabilities? Does it have the slab heights that you're looking for? All of these things matter. And also it needs to be a building that is a place for healing. And I know that sounds a little bit gimmicky, but the reality is that there is substantial data on the actual places where people go to get care that reinforces the treatment. If people feel like they're in a nice, warm, like healing environment, that feeling actually has an impact on the level of care that they get.
And that's interesting because with the evolution of artificial intelligence, you kind of lose that, I feel like, a little bit. It becomes a little bit more clinical and less interpersonal.
But I would argue that actually what's happened since the proliferation of electronic medical records has actually taken the personal element a step back, because I think a lot of physicians would probably agree to some extent that a lot of their job is about documentation and sitting behind a computer. I think AI can meaningfully improve what's taken place since the mass rollout of electronic medical records. That's pretty exciting as you think about it. I think that will have a much greater impact than telehealth, where a lot of people were fearful that telehealth would have a meaningful impact on healthcare in the US. My personal view, and I think I have to preface all of this with this is my view and may not necessarily represent the views of my firm or our shareholders, et cetera. I don't see telehealth meaningfully replacing a significant portion of healthcare. The reality is that there's such a liability in misdiagnosis, especially in the US, that until that changes or until there's some kind of contractual or legislative shift where people can have kind of a no harm, no foul digital consult where they recognize that, like, hey, doctor could get this wrong. Right. That will likely not change the person-to-person element that, like, frankly, is integral to true care. Like, the physical element of people being with each other is healing versus having something digital. I don't know the statistics on the digital component, but I do know that there is data supporting that, like, the physical human in-person interaction does have a positive outcome.
Thanks for tuning in to the Maestro Minute podcast. Make sure to rate this podcast if you found it helpful, share it with a friend that could use it, and follow us on all major podcast platforms. The Maestro Minute, powered by Maestro Development.